Well, we've hit the last day of January, and that means the Nebraska Prep Zone Report is back. And today we're going to talk about a lot. We got a jam-packed episode for you. Another coaching milestone last night. We're going to dive into like the current point leaders in Class A, kind of see who's on the bubble there. And, we only have 2-3 weeks left in the regular season before district play. And but of course, we got to start with the upset of the year. It happened last Friday night, and I'll send it over to my guests now. Mike Patterson and Stu Pospisil are with me again. And Mike, a 38-game win streak was snapped. Waverly knocks off Britt and the Wolves.
Right. The Vikings were playing at home. We had them ranked. I think they were sixth, but I don't think anyone saw this coming just because the Wolves have been so strong this year, winning their games by an average of 33 points. And, Britt is Britt. And like I said, I was covering a different game that night. And then when word came back that Waverly had defeated Elkhorn North by 10, it sent some reverberations throughout the state, like, well, maybe Elkhorn North isn't the lock for a fourth straight Class B title that we all thought, because anybody can have an off night. Britt Prince, I think, had 20 under her almost 29-point average. And I think Waverly did a nice job on McKenna Murphy, the second scoring option for Elkhorn North. So, yeah, props to Waverly for getting it done. But I don't know if you saw the scores from last night, Dylan, but Gretna East, another team that we've talked about quite a bit, number 3 in Class B, they knocked off Waverly. So I kind of wondered if the Vikings were going to be able to keep that high that they were on from Friday night. Of course, now they're kind of the team with the target, that they were the team that beat Elkhorn North. So it seems like it's opening up a little bit in Class B, more than just perhaps what we thought originally, as far as Elkhorn North 1 and Omaha Skutt number 2. But still, props to Waverly for getting it done that night. That was a huge win for Coach John Cockerell and his program.
Well, I think that, looking at that, Gretna East, I think, could be a real sleeper because they are playing a mostly Class A schedule in its first year. And, we talked about this yesterday off air that, Elkhorn North is the only new girls team or team from a new school, one from scratch and not a merger or a renaming or something like that, to make the state tourney in its first year in girls basketball. And Gretna East certainly looks like they could do that this year. And that's probably a good wake-up call for Elkhorn North. Probably gets them a little hungrier, and it also probably tells other people that, okay, maybe there is a way to slow down Britt and make others, step to the front. And Reese Booth at 16, she did her career high for Elkhorn North the other night. But, it was going to make Class B state just a little bit more interesting.
Right. I think every Class B coach in the state is probably going to want to look at that game film and see exactly what happened there. So Coach Cockerell told me they didn't really do anything different than what they had done in the past. And Waverly lost twice to Elkhorn North last year, running a triangle and 2 defense. But shots weren't falling for Elkhorn North the way they usually do. I think they only had 2 3-pointers in the game. So that kind of made them vulnerable. And like we said, Waverly got it done. And now other coaches are going to be trying to emulate what the Vikings did.
Well, I think probably he may have also looked at what Millard North did to Elkhorn North, shading a third person on Britt. And, that was a 3-point ball game down at the Nebraska Prep Classic. So, again, I think it's good for Elkhorn North. They know that they're going to see defenses like this, and Ann Prince is going to try and come up with, counter actions to get other shooters better shots.
Right.
Yeah, first loss in 420 days, guys. So, that's going to shake your system a little bit. They did do well, bounce back the other night at South Sioux City, made the long road trip up there and got that win. They have 13-2 Norris in about a week. So that's probably their biggest challenge left in the regular season. They only have 4 games left on their schedule. But you look at the point leaders now, Omaha Skutt is number 1 in Class B. Is there a way?
It really doesn't matter. And
right.
in Class B because there's no wild card involved.
Right.
You're just playing for seedings, and honestly, playing the 15th team in districts or the 16th, does it really matter? Not
Yeah.
really.
No,
So,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Mike kind of say or relate to what the Waverly's coach said about Britt's demeanor and her camaraderie after the game.
Right. Yeah, Coach Cockrell told me that Britt, right after the game, she went around and high-fived all the Waverly players, like congratulating them on the victory. And the Waverly gym was packed that night. There were a lot of little girls there watching the game. They wanted to see Britt play, and Britt stuck around for a lot of the photos with those little girls. So I'm sure that made their night. It's probably not an easy thing to do after just suffering a loss, but that just goes back to what a good person Britt is. And yeah, it was just a nice thought that she had done that, taken the time after I'm sure somewhat of a crushing loss, but that's what the good ones do, and Britt's definitely one of the good ones.
Well, Elkhorn North hasn't had an undefeated season,
Yeah.
in the 4 years. So,
I
again,
didn't,
sometimes you can learn more from the loss.
right. I didn't think about that, but yeah, Scott was the last team to beat them, and that was early last season. So yeah, but talking about Scott, the Skyhawks being number one in wild card points now, since that loss against Elkhorn North, Stu and I were both at that one, and Britt really took over that game. But since that setback, Scott's won, I think, 6 or 7 in a row, and they knocked off, I think, 3 Class A ranked teams. So Kip Colony's Skyhawks are playing some of their best basketball right now. So we'll see how this plays out once again. And if we have a rematch in that Class B final, like we all might expect again, Elkhorn North and Scott.
Yeah, and just to clean that up real quick, Gretna East is currently number 5 in the points, with Waverly at 6, and then South Sioux City at 7. So kind of all those teams merged in there together. So we want to move on
South Sioux
now.
City, Dillon, you mentioned South Sioux City, and just final thought on this, that like Elkhorn North went up and beat them by 20. That was on the road. So I think the Wolves have already bounced back somewhat from that setback.
No doubt about it. So yeah, if we want to move into what you saw last night, PAT, some history over at Omaha Marion.
Right. Marion coach Tom Taverdi picked up career victory number 500. So congratulations to Tom. He was a longtime coach at Seward. That's where he won 470 of those 500 games. He's in his 3rd year with the Crusaders now. And when he was at Seward, they won 4 straight Class B titles. They won 104 games in a row during that stretch. So he had some great teams down there. And he's done a nice job in his short time with Marion. They easily handled Omaha South last night to get that 500th win. Marion had come up short in their 2 previous tries to get that 500th win. They lost to Bellevue West and Pius X. So I think they're all happy to get that milestone behind them. And yeah, just a nice tribute to Tom. And I think he's now 5th all time among active coaches in victories. I think he's the 16th overall to get to the 500 win mark. Quite an accomplishment. So again, congratulations to Tom Taverdi.
Yeah, and he's just 200 shy of the great Tom Izzo, who picked up his 700th on the same night.
I should have mentioned that to Tom last night. All you got is 200 more to catch Izzo. So
Right.
he's got about 100. He's got about 140 more to catch Russ Ninemeyer at Douglas County West, who's our new all-time career wins leader. So we'll see if that happens.
Well, and then you still got John Miller out there at Stewart now coaching boys. He just picked up his 800th combined boy and girl this year.
Yeah.
So, he kind of had a nice niece that played for him back in the day, some gal named Darcy Strachey, who
Career
leads the all-time
scoring leader.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
career scoring leader in the state, and somebody who Britt Prince has her eye on perhaps as the all-time scoring leader. We don't think Britt's going to get there, but if she maintains her average that she's doing this year, she might end up as the second all-time scorer career in the state.
And the class, she already has the Class B record. And actually, if Elkhorn North would get to the finals in state and Britt would hit her averages, she would become the number 2 behind Darcy for state tournament points. She's at 200 right now after 9 games at state.
Wow. Stu, I've got a question about Darcy Strachey.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't covering the high schools back then. Was that during the 3-point era?
Yes.
Okay. How did she average so many points? I mean, it's amazing to see how many she ended up with when you see what Britt's doing, and Britt's probably not going to catch her.
Well, you have to remember that Darcy was in D1 and D2, and from freshman on, she was there when she started at Stewart. She played 1 year at Stewart, and then she transferred to Chambers to play for her uncle, John Miller, and his wife, Sandy Strachey, married John Miller. So, Darcy was playing for her aunt as well. And she just, again, when you're down on D2, there's not a lot of teams able to play triangle and 2 on you or whatever junk defense. So, and she had 52. I covered the game at state where she set the single game tournament record with 52, and she just was a natural and played very well for UNK and went into coaching for a time.
Right. 52, that's a pretty nice game at state.
I believe that was at the old Pershing Auditorium that is, if it's not down already, it's gotta be close. I haven't driven past there, so other people may know more than myself. I just old Pershing to segue or sidebar. It was a great place to watch basketball, a terrible place to park.
Agreed. I don't know who the security guards were there, but boy, if you parked within about a 1-mile radius of that place, you were going to get in trouble. They didn't want you anywhere close. So
no.
Yeah.
But no, going back to the Crusaders real quick, guys. Do you think this will push them towards a state tournament berth, or do you think they're going to be just boxed out there in Class A?
They're going to be
they're an
right
outside shot.
Yeah, they're going to be right on the bubble, I think, Dylan.
Yeah.
They're going to be one of those teams that's going to be scrapping for, that last spot. There's only one wild card in Class A. Marion's been a little bit up and down this season. Like I said, they came up short in those 2 previous games, trying to get that 500th win. And I've seen it before where if it's a milestone win, the team is sometimes trying so hard that they kind of get out of sync and maybe don't play their best basketball. So I think maybe now that they've got their 500th win for Coach Taverdi behind them, they'll kind of regroup and maybe play a little tougher down the stretch. They've got a big game coming up at West Side, so we'll see how that one goes.
Well, they also, their past 2 games, they played Bellevue West, which maybe looks like it's getting things figured out after it was your preseason number 1, Mike. Now 9-6 after falling to 6-6, and then Lincoln Pius X gave the Crusaders a 21-point loss last week. They play West Side tomorrow at West Side. I think that's probably a good litmus test. And then, look who they finish with. AL over from Council Bluffs is going to be good. And these are all at home after West Side. Millard West, Millard South, which is rebuilding, and then Millard North. So, that's not going to help their points very much. And, it depends who they get, paired with. Looks like, Pius and Papio South are probably battling for the last home, a guaranteed spot in the playoffs. And then, you got Southeast in there, you got Central, West Side. Papillion La Vista is 11-3.
Yeah.
But they have not played, obviously, a very strong schedule to be sitting down there in the second tier of 10.
Right. You mentioned Bellevue West, Stu. That's the team that I've had trouble figuring out this season. They're 9-6. They just won at Westside last night, so that was a big win. Kind of getting back on the right track. But yeah, our preseason number 1, they're number 10 in the overall top 10, so they're just about ready to drop out of there. But maybe they're going to get it turned around here down the stretch too.
Yeah, I'm sure Dane Bacon, their coach, is trying to figure out what's happened, and again, sometimes it's all on schedules, who you get when, and I think they had you take a look at the stretch they had since Metro. They handled AL very well. They lose by 2 to Scott, and then they lose to Millard West by 12. And before that, they lost at Pius. They lost to Britt and Elkhorn North, and then they lost that game up in Minnesota. So,
yeah,
again,
I think that's been a big part of it. Dane really toughened up their schedule this season in the hopes that it'll get them ready for the state tournament. So we'll see if that's the case, because their schedule definitely was much more difficult this year than it was last year.
Well, look who they still have to finish with. Again, Millard South and Southeast this week. Central, Papio South before the end of the year.
Right.
Again, if they would happen to go, let's say 5-1 or 6-0, they're probably right back in the thick of the Class A chatter. But
yeah,
again, those are some good matchups.
You mentioned Papio. Someone sent me an email. How come they're not ranked? Because of their record, which they do have a good record, but their schedule hasn't been as tough as some of the other teams, at least to this point. I think they're 14th in wild card points. So I mean, the Monarchs have had a nice season, but I couldn't really put them up there over, say, Bellevue West, which I think has been playing a tougher schedule.
Yeah.
Southeast has slipped in there, and Omaha Central's holding down that number 10 spot in Class A. So I'd say the Monarchs are just outside that top 10.
Well, their best wins over Bellevue East. In fact, that's their only win over a winning Class A team.
Right. That's
so
what I
it's
tried.
kind of hard to justify.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a team below
That's
them. Yeah, so
that's what I tried to explain to the person who sent me the email. Just the schedule, and when you look at wild card points, a lot of that's based on strength of schedule, and they are 14th the last time I checked, so that had a lot to do with it.
I would have liked to have seen last night's game with North. They 81-72. That's a lot of points for a girls' game.
That was almost getting up to the 93-91 of Millard South and Bellevue West from a year or two ago. That was a wild one.
But then again, here's North at 5-9, playing them within 9. So,
right.
They get a chance to earn their spot. They've got Millard West on Friday or Saturday at home, and then that kicks off 5 in a row against winning teams.
Yep. He said their schedule gets much tougher down the stretch.
Again, some of these schedules just are kind of confounding how they've been put together, or how you've got a whole string of road games or home games, or yeah, I don't know. I don't sit on that committee. It's not even like the NCAA, and we will see the football schedules come out a week from today for the next 2 years. But yeah, how this committee puts these games together, I don't have the foggiest.
So no, that's some good Class A and some Class B talk on the girls' side. But if we want to move into the boys, Stu, only got about 10 minutes left here on our Zoom cast, I'm afraid. So
That's okay.
if we want to talk about some of the shakeup, you kept the first 4 the same, but a little bit of shakeup after that in your latest top 10.
Well, Creighton Prep didn't have its best week.
Right.
I covered the Bellevue West game with them. Coach Josh Lukey had just won his 400th the game before. Was less than enthralled with how he saw Prep play, and then the funk continued Saturday night down at Lincoln Pius, and Pius got a good win. I think it was their 10th and 11th games. So Prep tumbles from 5th to 10th, and Pius the 10th comes in at 8, and Southeast, which had a pretty good pounding of Omaha Westview, which had been in the rankings because of its win over Pius, which had beaten Southeast. Southeast grabs the number 9 spot, and we now have 3 OPS teams in the top 7. We'll see how long that lasts, in part because Omaha North is going to hit the strong part of its schedule, and they're saying 11-2, and behind 3 teams with 4 losses. But the Vikings, for instance, handled Papio last night. They've got a stretch coming starting on the 10th, Central, Westside, Bryan. So that would give us a real good gauge on the Vikings and whether they're ready to make a run to get to state. And this is a school that has won 1 first-round game ever in the state tournament, and it's 100 years old. Some guy named Mike McGee took him to the finals his junior year, but other than that, they've been ousted in the first round every other state tourney appearance.
How about that? That is crazy. No, and then you look at, yeah, like you said, some of these schedules are just kind of backloaded with the strength of it. Omaha Central has at Gretna, home for Bellevue West, home for North, home for West Side, then at Prep to finish out. Like that's not easy. They have a game against Fremont in there. That's the one easy one.
You would think, except as that one's on the road, so
yep. Have to leave.
Well, here's Papio South, and Papio South just dropped out of the rankings, but 12-2, 13-3, 12-4, 13-4, 14-2. They went through that stretch, lost all 5 games.
Yep.
Now they've got some better matchups, and I'll see them against Kearney in the Heartland Hoops Classic a week from Saturday in Grand Island, and then they come back with Bellevue West that following Friday. So, again, we thought Papio South with a lot of non-seniors was going to make a move this year, and they just have to start getting some confidence wins to hit the stretch run.
No doubt. I mean, they have Bryson Ball, who is just one of the more dominant scorers that we have, right? I mean, that guy's almost averaging a double-double, I believe, looking at our latest stat leaders. And so they definitely have the talent to make that run. But yeah, like you said, I think they're back here 11th in points. Is that right?
Yeah. That 21-point loss at Gretna was kind of a head scratcher, and not so much the 11-point loss or 14 at Millard North, but and Gretna's playing better. I mean, they've dealt with their issues of regrouping after Brad Feakin's death, the coach, and you want to be playing your best basketball in the next 3 weeks to get to state, because there's going to be several teams that think that they're pretty good that aren't going to be in Lincoln in March.
Yeah, that's just it. Because you take away the first 2, Bellevue West and Millard North, and yeah, there's gonna be a lot of teams here scrapping for the remaining spots. And last week, I think we had the top 8 in points were all Metro teams, and now we have a couple Lincoln teams slipping in there.
Well, we had last week's rankings. Past 2 weeks were all top or all Metro teams, and now we have 2 Lincolns in, and we'll see. Again, they're going to be playing some good competition as well, and how will they? It's a scramble right now, and we kind of anticipated that being this type of year.
Yep. So now I don't know how much time we have left here, guys, but looking ahead here, do you think it's going to be if you had to say right now, Stu, do you think it's going to be our 5th installment of Bell West, Millard North?
I'd say there's at least a 50-50 shot.
Okay.
Bellevue West is right now, unless they hit a tailspin, they're 3 points up average wise on the rest of the Class A tournament. So they're almost certainly going to be the wild card team if they would happen to get upset by the number 14 or 15 team in points in districts.
Yep.
And Miller North, I think is playing really well. You're gonna have to beat one of those two to be in the finals. The way it shakes out, they probably should be sitting 1 and 2, so that would mean they wouldn't play until the state final.
Sure. Yeah. It's not that 25-0 Bill West team from last year, but I think they still have quite a few of those guys besides Dotzler. There's so many shooters too. That Cassio Jensen the other night? He made 7 threes after averaging 27% all year, and
8 threes.
Eight threes. That's right.
That's the third one on the Thunderbirds to have 8 threes in a game this year.
7 for 7 in the first half. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was automatic first half. He's one that did not want to have the half come up. He could have shot all night long at the end. He was, and again, Prep tried to take him away second half. He hit the 8th one late, but he didn't force anything either. So.
And that's just like you said, just one of the many shooters they have around the perimeter. So that's what makes them dangerous. If that 3 isn't falling, though, have you seen a game where the 3 isn't falling? Are they able to make kind of some adjustments going to the rim, that sort of thing?
The one loss was against Miller North back in December, and I think Steve Klein, the new coach, moving up to follow Doug Woodard. One of the Metro's legends for coaching. He's made the right corrections, and the shots aren't going to fall all night or fall every game, and you got to play defense. And that, like any high school team, you're spotty in that regard. You're not going to come out and play your best game every single night on defense or on offense, but they just have more than everybody else right now.
Well, apologies to our listeners there for the technical difficulties on our end. That was the end of our conversation on the Zoomcast with Stu and Mike. Dillon Adams back with you here now in the new podcast studio in the Omaha World-Herald Freedom Center downtown. And sorry for the technical difficulties, and also sorry that this will unfortunately be our final podcast together today. This was our finale. However, we are excited to say the Prep Zone is going to live on with a new format, kind of a video format. We'll have more details in the future about that, but times are changing here at the Omaha World-Herald. If you didn't know already, we have new leadership here with an executive editor, and we also are moving into a new location in West Omaha. At the time, we are kind of stationed here at the Freedom Center in between as we moved out of our downtown offices a couple weeks back. But guys, this has been a lot of fun. Seems like I just took over the helm on this podcast back in August. Had a great time with my co-hosts Mike and Stu, taking you through the Nebraska football season and into basketball. And kind of sad that we're not going to be able to finish that up. But again, stay tuned. We are going to be back in some form. Don't know just yet what that's going to look like, but of course, I hope you stick with us as well here at omaha.com for all of the latest on Nebraska high school sports. You can, if you don't have a subscription, $1 for 6 months. That will get you through the end of the prep sports season, well into summer, through all the College World Series coverage, and even give a little Huskers summer camp coverage as well as all of their spring game and the rest of spring camp. So that's it for me today. Dillon Adams signing off for the final time on the Nebraska Prep Zone Report.